Welcome back, True Seeker. We got two early basketball games tomorrow, April 28th, 2019. Going to put out the video for these now. I'll be on tomorrow, Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, to do the live decode for the hockey games. But just to get this information out about the basketball games now, here's what we're looking at. So, the date numerology. It's Sunday, April 28th. That is the 118th day of the year. Celtics equals 118. The Celtics just lost their star player from the past, John Havlicek. His name's 118. Wisconsin's also 118, where the game is. Go figure. The date numerology 71, 44, 26. In Gematria, Celtics equals 71 and 26. Wisconsin's 44. Remember, 71's the 20th prime number, because that's going to be a key number as we look at this matchup. So, here's what's going on with this Celtics and Bucks game. Let's see if I can make this bigger for you, these notes. Is it possible to zoom that in? Well, hopefully you can make it out. It looks like I can't zoom it in. So, Milwaukee is 118 and 129 against Boston in the playoffs. And how interesting that they're meeting on the 118th day of the year. That number is more specific to the Celtics. Milwaukee's 73 and 47 at home against Boston. What's interesting about that is Game 2 is on a date with 73 numerology. So, if Milwaukee lost Game 1, they would go into Game 2 still at 73 wins at home against Boston. Boston's next win in Milwaukee will be number 48. Boston Celtics equals 48. Milwaukee Bucks equals 48. John Havlicek, who just died, was born on April 8th, 4-8. The Celtics kept the Pacers at 48 wins. Something to think about. Both teams are 4-0 in the playoffs. In the playoffs, Milwaukee's 14 and 20 against Boston. What's interesting about that is we have the 71 date numerology. They could stay at 20 losses against Boston on the 71 date. 71's the 20th prime. Again, the date numerology for game 1's 71. So the riddle's kind of going two ways, right? Milwaukee could stay on 73 wins and go into Game 2 still at 73 wins, or they could stay at 20 losses against Boston. Now here's another riddle. Brad Stevens, the coach of Boston, if he loses, he would become 26 and 26 in the playoffs for his career record, and we have 26 date numerology. Right now he's 26 and 25. A loss would make him 26 and 26 on the 26th date, and Celtics equals 26. The Bucks coach, if he wins, he would be 22 and 22. And right now he's 21 and 22. So with a win, he'd be 22 and 22. Boston equals 22. So the coach's records would be even 26, 26, 22, and 22 if the Bucks won. And it would be a tribute to the Boston Celtics. The Celtics for the season are at 20 away losses. If they won tomorrow, they would stay at 20 away losses on the 71 date. 71, the 20th prime. The next game is on a 73 date. 73 is the 21st prime. So pretty much the way this is looking to me is these teams are going to split the first two games in Milwaukee. That's what it looks like to me. If Boston loses game 1, they would go into the next game on the 73 date and probably stay at 21 losses because 73 is the 21st prime. Boston could also pick up their 21st away loss tomorrow on ABC. ABC does equal 21. So tomorrow's game is really tight. I never like to lead with coaches. Sometimes it is about the coaches in certain times, but more often than not, when I lead with the coach, maybe not more often than not, but if I lead with the coach, it seems like I get burned more often than I want to. But looking at the coaches' records, I mean, that 26-26 on the 26th date, it's very tricky. And remember, Milwaukee's coming into this series at 22 losses for the season. Boston 22. If they get beat, they'll pick up their 26th loss. So I do think these teams are going to split the first two games. I might just wait and see on tomorrow's game. I think whoever wins tomorrow will lose game 2. That's the way it looks to me. And it's really hard to pull the trigger on either team in the early game. So the Rockets at Warriors, the next game that starts noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, or maybe it's 12:30 and 3:30. The Rockets right now are 151 and 153 in the playoffs. Remember, if D'Antoni gets 4 losses, he'll be at 49 losses in the playoffs, and Warriors equals 49. I'm wondering, well, it's possible that the Warriors could beat the Rockets in Game 6 because that would keep the Rockets at 153 playoff wins. And Golden State Warriors equals 153. Could be that way. Kind of like how the Carolina Hurricanes kept the Washington Capitals at 135 wins. If you remember that riddle. Carolina Hurricanes 135, Capitals 135, Capital One Arena 135. Those teams had the overlap with the number, though, so it's a little bit different. The Golden State Warriors in the playoffs are 180 and 153. It's interesting how both teams come in with that number that connects to the Golden State Warriors. Houston is 129 and 105 against the Warriors. Total, all games played. Their next loss will be their 106th. Remember, Oakland, California equals 106. Oracle Arena is 106 feet tall. I'm thinking these teams are going to split the first 2 games in Oakland as well. Houston is 60 and 57 at Oakland. Their next loss would be the 58th. Just like how their next win is also their 58th total of the season. Oakland equals 58, Golden State 58. Houston against Golden State in the playoffs, they're 5-12, which means from Golden State's perspective, they're 12-5. Talked about this earlier today in the live stream. We talked about this in the baseball decode more than a week ago. We had the Astros losing at Oakland to become 12-6. Because Oakland equals 126 in Jewish Gematria. I'm wondering if we could see the same riddle play out here. 12-6. Oakland 1-2-6. When Oakland beat the Cavs in the championship 2 years ago, they did it on June 12th. When they beat the Cavs on Martin Luther King Jr. Day that year, they did it with 126 points. So 1-2-6, important number to Oakland. If Houston wins Game 1, Golden State's record will become 12-6 against Houston in the playoffs. And I'm also realizing that would be the 18th playoff game. 61's the 18th prime number. That would also keep the Warriors at 61 total wins on the season where they are right now. Houston would also pick up their 61st win in Oakland. So you'd get a 61-18 riddle. So Houston seems to have a little bit better narrative tomorrow, but here's some other things I want to show you about both of these series. So we're going to talk about both these series a bit more. So I looked at the entire series here. If it went to Game 7, if the Celtics lost Game 1 in Milwaukee, they would come into Game 2 with 53 wins on the lesser date numerology of 53. And Milwaukee equals 53. So that makes me wonder if Celtics do drop Game 1 and give Brad Stevens that perfect record. I noticed that in the second game in Boston, Game 4, the The Bucks are at 29 away wins. This date has a lesser date numerology of 30. Bucks could possibly get their 30th away win in this game. If they got it in the first game, they'd probably stay on 30 in game 2. Remember, at the beginning of the month, when you only have single-digit days, the lesser date numerology is more important. So the Bucks could get their 30th away win right there. That would make the series 2-2 in Boston. Boston 22. And looking ahead, the Celtics, if they won 2 out of the first 3 in Milwaukee, meaning they'd have to split the first 2, then right here in Game 3 in Milwaukee, which is Game 5 overall for the series, the Celtics could get their 25th away win of the series. They come in with 23 away wins. They could get number 25 on the 25 date numerology. So I'm thinking it's very possible that Boston goes up 3-2 in the series in this game, comes back to Boston, and I guess Milwaukee might very well win this game because it's looking like Game 7 seems destined. If the Celtics are to advance, they would do it with 57 wins. 57 wins, they could get their 57th win of the season in Game 7 right here. Big special number. They could also lose to Milwaukee and get their 37th loss. Milwaukee does equal 37. If the Celtics lost the series, they would pick up their 37th loss. The reason the 57 is more important is because this is the full date numerology and we're in double-digit days here. So this lesser date numerology becomes less significant at this part of the month. Milwaukee does equal 37, though, but this is really looking like a Game 7. And, the numbers are there. So I think this one's going 7 games. And that means we're going to get plenty of opportunities to pick games. And if we follow these riddles, we can have some really strong picks, I think. So, again, you don't have to gamble every day, but just looking down the road ahead, if we have this mapped out right, there could be a lot of quality picks throughout the series. So that's why, Game 1, I know a lot of you guys like to put some money on the table each day. But I'm just saying, there's going to be some more clear riddles as we go ahead. And then in Golden State in Houston, again, we talked about how Game 1's a little tight too, but it seems like Houston has the slightly better riddle. Again, 71 date numerology, the 20th prime. Rockets could stay at 20 away losses on the season. They had 19 in the regular season, plus 1 in Utah in the first round. So they're at 20. They could stay there on the 71 date. Game 2, 73 date, 21st prime. Rockets could get the 21st away loss in that one. The other thing that you have to consider is the Warriors come into this series with 28 losses. Rockets equals 28. Game 2 does have 28 date numerology. If the Warriors did win Game 1, they'd still be on 28 losses on the 28 date. And if the Warriors won the first 2 games in Oakland, which is possible, sometimes it doesn't follow the date numerology, sometimes it's a different riddle. The first game going back to Houston, the Warriors could still be at 28 losses on the lesser date numerology at 28. So just something to consider. But that said, it still seems like Houston has the slightly better riddle for Game 1, especially making the Warriors 12-6 against the Rockets in the playoffs. If the Warriors did win, they'd become 13-5, like 135. That's the big Philadelphia number. Philadelphia established on a date with 135 numerology. Almost every Philadelphia sports team has a 135 connection. The Warriors are originally from Philly. So that is another number to consider, but Oakland and 126 is something else. And I think it's slightly more relevant since they are in Oakland now. So I was also looking here. The Rockets come into this series at 23 away wins. The Warriors have not been playing well at home. They've been playing better on the road. if the Rockets were to win 2 of the first 3 in Oakland, this is what makes me believe they split here in the first 2 games, more likely to split and probably win game 1. The Rockets could get their 25th away win. The Rockets could get the 25th away win in this game 5 in Oakland, the 3rd game in Oakland. They need 2 more away wins in the series to get 25 on this 25-date numerology. If the Warriors were skunking the Rockets at home, meaning if the Warriors won both these games right here, Houston would come into this game, game 6, still at 34 home wins on a lesser date numerology at 34. So another thing to consider. So imagine that the series went that way, that they split here. So they're 1-1. Warriors go up 3-1, winning both in Houston. Rockets come back and win game 5 in Oakland, 3-2. Anything could happen here. There's a reason to believe it could end in game 6, because again, that would keep the Rockets at, what was the stat? It was the, that would have the Rockets at 153 playoff wins, and Golden State Warriors is 153. And both teams are coming in with that many losses. So it's possible it could end here game 6. That's a date with 54 numerology, Oracle 54. The NBA Finals are going to start on a date with 54 numerology. Part of the reason we've liked the Warriors all season. So that's the 130th day of the year. That would be 57 days after Steph Curry's birthday. It's interesting. He's born on the 73rd day. So that's what we're looking at there for the playoffs. Hope you guys did well today. The 2 picks that we went with. In the NBA, we had the Spurs covering, which they did. If you saw how this game ended, the Spurs just let the clock run out with 30 seconds. Didn't even try to foul. It was like, what? Man, the Raptors look so good. They had everything except for the 76ers had that one stat that made me not pull the trigger. I should have pulled the trigger, man. The Raptors had so many narratives, but I'm sure some of you did anyway. Just anytime I see one narrative for a team, it always makes me shy. And then in the NHL, the Blue Jackets did win today. I said take them to cover. Double overtime game. The Stars and Blues game was real dicey. I said don't bet that one because could have gone either way, and the Blues didn't pay anything if they did win. So, and I also did tell you, I said if you watch the MLB today, and I said if Toronto beats the Athletics, that could be a clue for the Toronto Raptors because they become 6-8, basketball 68. And the Athletics used to be in Philadelphia like the 76ers. So maybe some of you did take that advice and didn't go with Toronto. So this was done before the basketball game got underway. So anyway, we'll leave it there. Be back tomorrow. We'll do the hockey games. We'll look at baseball again. We're going to see if we can get back into a groove, find some clues. And remember, you don't have to gamble every day, but we're definitely going to get some good riddles down the road here, just following these narratives, how it's all mapped out. All right, Truth Seeker. See you tomorrow morning.